Om Ajnana Timarandasya Gyanajana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gaurva Bhistam Supurkam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govinda Bidam Ujvalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Shah Divyad Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchanda Bharanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Mandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Vanshakopatarubyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurachavishe Namah. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Hidden Treasure of the Sweet Absolute, with translation and commentary by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj, and put into English by Sri Swarupananda Prabhu. So we're reading now Chapter 14, Gunatraya-vibhaga-yoga, the three divisions of material nature. Shri Bhagavanu Vahacha Parambuya Pravakshami Jnananam Jnanam Uttamam Yadgyatva Munaya Sarve Param Siddhim Itogata. The Supreme Lord said, "Again I shall describe to you the supreme teaching, the highest of all fields of knowledge, knowing which the sages attain the ultimate perfection beyond this mundane plane." This is verse 1. The Supreme Lord said, "Again I shall describe to you the supreme teaching, the highest of all fields of knowledge, knowing which the sages attain the ultimate perfection beyond this mundane plane." So the ultimate perfection is beyond this mundane plane. You won't find perfection in the mundane plane. Idam jnanam upashrita mama sadharmyam agata sargepi nopajayante pralaye na vyastanti cha. By taking refuge in this knowledge, the soul attains to my nature. Then he is neither born in the cosmic manifestation, nor does he suffer death in the cosmic dissolution. By taking refuge in this knowledge, the soul attains to my nature. Then he is neither born in the cosmic manifestation, nor does he suffer death in the cosmic dissolution. Because this knowledge and the attainment of the plane of the Lord by devotional service is beyond the material world of birth and death. Mama yonir mahadbrahma tasmin garbham tadamiyaham sambhava sarvabhutanam tato bhavati bharata. O Bharata, I place the seed within my womb of primordial matter from which all living beings take birth. So the living entities, although they appear within this material world, the seed is coming from the Lord himself, because ultimately they are spiritual in nature. Sarva yonishu konteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradapita. O Kontiya, primordial matter is the original womb of all life forms that are born of the wombs of all species, and I am the seed-giving Father. Sattvam rajas tama iti guna prakriti sambhava nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. O mighty hero, Arjuna, the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, born of material nature, bind the immutable spirit soul within the body. So one is bound up by these modes of material nature. They're called guna, and guna also means like ropes. So sometimes a person is tied up by ropes So these modes of material nature also tie one up. Almighty Hero, Arjuna, 3 modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance born of material nature bind the immutable spirit soul within the body. Tatra sattvam nirmalavat, tatra sattvam nirmalatvat, prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena badnanti jnana sangena chanaga, tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam, tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam amamayam, sukha sangena badnati jnana sangena chanaga. O sinless one, of these 3 modes, due to its purity, the mode of goodness is illuminating and wholesome, conditioning one to happiness and knowledge. So, O sinless one, of these 3 modes, due to its purity, the mode of goodness is illuminating and wholesome, conditioning one to happiness and knowledge. So it's illuminating and it conditions one to happiness and knowledge, but still the word conditioning one, meaning to bind one to this material nature. Rajo ragatmakam viri trishna sangha samudbhavan tadnibadnati kunteya karma sangena dehinam. O son of Kunti, know the mode of passion to be the embodiment of desire, born of hankering and attachment. It conditions one to action. So the mode of goodness conditions or binds one to happiness, to illumination, to knowledge, but still it's binding one. O son of Kunti, know the mode of passion to be the embodiment of desire, born of hankering and attachment. It conditions one to action. Tamas tvajnana jam vidi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalayasya nidrabhist tanibadnati bharata. Tamas tvajnana jam vidi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalayasya nidrabhist tanibadnati bharata. And, O Bharata, know the mode of ignorance born of darkness to be the ignorance of all the embodied beings, conditioning them to delusion, laziness, and slumber. Satvam sukhe sanjayati rajakarmani bharata jnanam avritya tutama pramade sanjayati uta. O Arjuna, the mode of goodness conditions the embodied being to happiness, and the mode of passion conditions him to action. But the mode of ignorance covers his knowledge and traps him in illusion. So this is how the 3 modes of nature are constantly acting. And sometimes one dominates, sometimes another dominates. But in this way, they condition one, whether it's to happiness, whether it's to action, or whether it's to illusion, but one is always being bound up by these modes. Rajastamas Shabid Huya Sattvam Bhavati Bharata Rajasattvam Tamas Jaiva Tamas Sattvam Rajastata. O Bharata, goodness overcomes passion and ignorance. Passion overcomes goodness and ignorance overcomes goodness and passion. Each mode in turn defeats the other in an unending battle for supremacy. O Bharata, goodness overcomes passion and passion overcomes goodness and ignorance overcomes goodness and passion. Each mode in turn defeats the others in an unending battle for supremacy. Reminds one of the games that children play to, rock, hammer, paper, rock, paper, scissors, rather. One time one is winning, one time another is winning. So Bharata, goodness overcomes passion and ignorance. So goodness is overcoming passion and ignorance. Passion overcomes goodness and ignorance. And ignorance overcomes goodness and passion. Each mode in turn defeats the others in an unending battle for supremacy. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyad vivridam sattvam iti uta. When the gateways of the body are illuminated with knowledge, know this to be the manifestation of the mode of goodness. So when the gateways of the body are illuminated with knowledge, know this to be the manifestation of the mode of goodness. So mode of goodness is giving one this knowledge, and it's also giving one happiness. So that's the mode of goodness. So then someone can say, well, what's wrong with that? Because one is still being bound. One may be bound by ropes or cords made of gold or silver or some base metal, but still one is being bound by these cords. So one is bound by mode of goodness, one is bound by some rope made of gold twine, but still one is being bound by that. Huh?
Can you talk about or just explain the gateways become illuminated by knowledge? Like, what is that?
That's one's perception of this world becomes illuminated by knowledge. One becomes like that. One gains knowledge of proper actions, and in this way, one is seeing some illumination because of that mode of goodness. Lobha pravritir aramba karmanam asamaspriya rajasi etane jayante vivride bharatarshava. O Arjuna, most noble of the Bharata dynasty, know that when the mode of passion predominates in a person, greed, exertion, undertaking of activities, unrest, and hankering becomes manifest. So just see, this is the way that these different modes of nature are working. And you can see the symptoms of the mode of goodness, knowledge, happiness, some illumination. Then you can see the symptoms of the mode of passion. Greed, exertion, undertakings of activities, unrest, and hankering become manifest. And sometimes I see that I become bound up. I'm trying to solve some problem, and then I become like focused and almost obsessed with that problem until I can solve it. So something of the mode of passion. Then also here, aprakasho pravrittischa pramado mohaevacha tamasi etani jayante vivride kurunandana. Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado mohaevacha tamasi etani jayante vivride kurunandana. O Karunandana, by the influence, O Kurunandana, by the influence of the mode of ignorance, all the symptoms of dullness, inactivity, delusion, and bewilderment become manifest. And here Krishna is referring to Arjuna's O Kurunandana, son of the Kurus, O Kurunandana, or happiness of the Kurus. O Kurunandana, by the influence of the mode of ignorance, all the symptoms of dullness, inactivity, delusion, and bewilderment become manifest. And you see that. Some persons are always in illusion. I remember one devotee, Malini, I think she's passed away since now, but in Mexico, she said in Spanish, for one who lives in illusion, he dies of disillusionment. So if one who lives in illusion dies of disillusionment, meaning one isn't living in illusion. Do the tamagun, one is living in illusion one's whole life, and one somehow or other becomes a little disenchanted, like one lives in an illusion that they're going to be some great personality, and when at the end of their life comes, they see that they never attained that greatness. They had dreams of being a star or a great athlete, and they never attained that. And then the saying was, one who lives in illusion like that dies of disillusionment, means they become disillusioned. They were an illusion and they become disillusioned, but that doesn't mean they become free from illusion. They just become disenchanted, disheartened. So, O Kurunandana, by the influence of the mode of ignorance, all the symptoms of dullness, inactivity, delusion, and bewilderment become manifest. Yada sattve pravridetu pralayam yati deha brit tadottama vidam lokan amalan pratipadyate. If a person dies in a state of the mode of goodness, he goes to the pure plains where those who have higher knowledge reside. If a person dies in a state of the mode of goodness, he goes to the pure plains where those who have higher knowledge reside. That means he'll go, by the mode of goodness, he'll go to a higher plane. Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tata pralinas tamasi mudha yonishu jayate. When a person dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth as a human attached to worldly activity. If one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the lower species. Muda yonishu jayate. Tata pralinas tamasi muda yonishu jayate. So muda yonishu, in the species of the mudas. Those mudas are like asses, but meaning lower species. Those are just workers and without any kind of illumination at all. And Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate. So, karma as a human attached to action. Karmana sukritasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasas tu phalam dukam ajnanam tamasa phalam. It is said by the learned that good actions result in purity, passionate actions result in sorrow, and ignorant actions lead to darkness. It is said by the learned that good actions result in purity, passionate actions result in sorrow, and ignorant actions lead to darkness. So, good actions result in purity when it becomes purified by the mode of goodness. One who's engaged in devotional service has said that that person is in Shuddha Sattva, when purified goodness. But mode of goodness will lead to some kind of purity, and passionate action results in sorrow, because it says that we have heard that which is like nectar in the beginning, but which is like poison in the end, is happiness in the mode of passion. So passionate actions result in sorrow, and ignorant actions lead to darkness. The ignorant actions are dark from the beginning to the end. So, as is said by the learned, that good actions result in purity, passionate actions result in sorrow, and ignorant actions lead to darkness.
Mark?
Yes?
Would it be, could you say like that if your life is not like illuminated and happy that you're not making the right actions? Could you make that direct translation, or is it like more long term?
Well, we should. What is the question again?
Like if your life is not like illuminated and filled with happiness, you know, if you're near this path or something, could you say that it's because you're not making the right actions? Your actions are leading.
Well, maybe one is taking up a good path, but in the beginning one may not be so practiced in that path. So that is said, like when someone takes up a path of devotion, then they will achieve good results. And I was just reading the 50th verse of the second chapter. And that's Govinda Maharaj quoted this verse very, very nicely. So I'd like Buddhi yukto jahati ha ube sukritya duskrite tasmad yoga yujasva yoga karma sukoshalam. And it is said, yoga karma sukoshalam. The wise person abstains from both good and bad actions in this world, engaged thus in yoga as yoga's art of all works. So it said, yoga karma sukoshalam, that yoga is the art of acting properly, but we may not be so practiced or expert in knowing how to act. Yoga karma sukoshalam. If we are doing actions perfectly, then we will be engaged in devotional service, in bhakti yoga, yoga karma sukoshalam. But we may not be so practiced or so able. So we have to endeavor, and it may not be automatically, as you say. If you were asking again the question?
That like in your life is not like illuminated and happy. That's how these modes are being described.
Well, you may. Yeah, but those who as a student are endeavoring but have not attained the yoga karma sukoshalam, have not so attained yoga, which means the art of acting properly, one who acting expertly, yoga karma sukoshalam. One may not be so expert, but one is practicing the path. So in the beginning, you may say, one may not have attained a state where one's existence is illuminated, but one may be endeavoring in the right way, and one is going in that direction. It's not just because one has not attained success instantaneously that means that one is not on the proper path. So it is said by the learned here, we were reading, Karmana sukritas yahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasas tu phalam dukam agyanam tamasa phalam. Let's see. It is said by the learned that good actions result in purity, passionate actions result in sorrow, and ignorant actions lead to darkness. And of course, because we're following the path, we're learning from our spiritual master. But the spiritual master can show us the proper path, but that doesn't mean that one who endeavors or takes up the practice is immediately expert in being able to act properly. Still, we may be conditioned by our material nature, and our material nature may have some effect on us. I heard Srila Govinda Maharaj when he was talking to, as I mentioned before, talking to Siddhanti Maharaj. Siddhanti Maharaj didn't have very long to live. This was before he passed away, and Govinda Maharaj also passed away a few weeks after Siddhanti Maharaj. And Govinda Maharaj told Siddhanti Maharaj, we're all getting our karma fall. We're all getting the results of our previous activities. So we know what is the proper path of action. We're trying to trying to attain that. But we're all getting our karma fall, the results of so many lives of previous activities. We may still, even though we're on the proper path, we may still be conditioned due to our material nature, due to the nature we have. Maybe carrying some very heavy baggage and still. But we are going in, that we are doing something right. And not just to analyze what my existence means. I cannot say that I am, like Srila Guru Maharaj said. He said, I do not see you as masters. I see you as students. And then he said, but we are all students. Even Guru Maharaj referred to himself, we are all students. So he's saying, we're students. We're not the master. So what's being described here, you can say, well, this is what it describes for someone whose existence is purified by the practice of devotional service of Bhakti Yoga. Yes, but we are not masters of that. We are rather aspiring students. So you cannot just judge what is the success of the path when one hasn't, because one hasn't attained that success. Doesn't change. In other words, one's position is not static. Srila Guru Maharaj also said, everyone is known according to their potential. So in the beginning, a child doesn't know how to run. The child doesn't even know how to walk and has to endeavor just practicing. So many steps falling down. And we've seen that. We've seen these small boys or small girls that they're just pulling themselves up by furniture and trying to walk. But that's we're just seeing how they are today. We're not seeing their future. May have what is their potential? We cannot say just because now they're endeavoring to walk, but that doesn't mean that in the future that will be theirs. They may be champion athletes, whatever. Just because they're trying to walk now. So something like that. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso loba evacha pramada moho tamaso bhavato jnanam evacha. From the mode of goodness, knowledge arises. From the mode of passion, greed. And from the mode of ignorance, delusion, bewilderment, and a lack of knowledge ensue. From the mode of goodness, knowledge arises. From the mode of passion, greed. And from the mode of ignorance, delusion, bewilderment, and a lack of knowledge ensue. And then the Bhagavad Gita towards the end, it says, Brahma bhuta prashanatma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. It says when you have attained the Brahma bhuta stage, that stage of actually true attainment, when you have attained that Brahma bhuta stage, mad bhaktim labate param, when you're on that platform, then Bhakti Yoga begins. That's not to say that who is practicing Bhakti Yoga is not practicing really devotion, but it is said even those who by some process elevate themselves and they get to the highest position, then they can begin Bhakti Yoga. In other words, the perfection of everything is to engage in bhakti from whatever position one finds oneself. And it's not just because whether one is a student or a master, still one is to engage in Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. Let's see. Urdvam gachanti sattvasta madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganya guna vrittista ado gachanti tamasa. Persons in goodness ascend up to Satyaloka. Those in passion remain in the middle as humans, and the unfortunate ignorant persons fall to the lower species, of, pardon me, and the unfortunate ignorant persons fall to the lower planes of suffering. Persons in goodness ascend up to Satyaloka. Those in passion remain in the middle as humans. And the unfortunate ignorant persons fall to the lower planes of suffering. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drishtanu pashyati gunebhyas cha param veti madbhavam sodigachati. When a person sees the three modes to be the only impetus of this world and knows the Supreme Lord transcendental to the modes, then he comes to love me with devotion. When a person sees the three modes to be the only impetus of this world and knows the Supreme Lord transcendental to the modes, then he comes to love me with devotion. No longer just trying to be successful in this world. When a person sees the three modes to be the only impetus of this world, whether one is dominated by goodness, passion, or ignorance, this is all that's going on in this material nature, the predominance of one mode or another, but one is always bound up by being within the material nature. One never transcends this material nature. One only knows success, impetus for action, complete failure, or whatever. When a person sees the three modes to be the only impetus of the world and knows the Supreme Lord transcendental to the modes, then he comes to love me with devotion.
Una pregunta.
Yes.
Bueno, me puede contestar en inglés. ¿Cuál es el verdadero estado del nivel de la pasión, ignorancia y bondad? Porque uno puede tener una concepción de lo que es cada una, pero ¿cuál es la real?
What is the real conception or idea of goodness, passion, and ignorance? But we'll never know what is pure goodness, pure passion, and pure ignorance. They're always one predominating over the other. We're never really situated in pure goodness. We're never situated in pure passion. We're never situated in pure ignorance. Or we may be temporarily situated in one mode or the other, but that's what we've been reading. From the mode of goodness, one has knowledge, happiness, illumination. What is the other description of goodness? It's pureness, is illuminating, conditioning one to happiness and knowledge. That's goodness. And sometimes we're gaining actually some knowledge and happiness. And then sometimes the mode of passion takes place and we're very much bound up to action. We're trying to initiate some action. And what is the impetus for that action? It may be sometimes some greed to attain some result, or maybe just born of desire like this, and we're bound by action. And sometimes the mode of ignorance is there, and all we want to do is sleep, or we feel depressed or disturbed. So we know all these things. We have experienced all these things. It's not like we're in one mode or we're in another. Rather, sometimes we may be illuminated, and then sometimes we may be even conditioned by that, and that may result in us becoming completely illusioned. That's why when Srila Govinda Maharaj came to Guru Maharaj said, "Can you follow me and not your mind? Because my mind will always be controlled by one of these modes or other, and I will not be able to attain the transcendental position by following my mind, because my mind doesn't know what is the purity of devotion. Only my Gurudev knows that. And only my Gurudev can actually properly orientate me to that path. And if somebody like you says, oh, but you are my teacher, well, then you try to understand what I myself am following and what I'm trying to teach, then you'll get some idea of what is the proper path. What is, Srila Govinda Maharaj said, I am giving all glories to my Guru. So I'll do that too. I'm trying to teach others what I have learned from Srila Govinda Maharaj, from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada. Because I can see that is the perfection. Okay? I didn't translate into Spanish because... Okay. Okay. Gunan etan atitya trin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkha vimuktom ritam asnute gunan etan atitya trin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkha vimuktom ritam asnute. Transcending these modes manifest in the body, one is liberated from the miseries of birth, death, and old age, and knows the joy of immortality. So that's only attainable when one is able to transcend these modes and come. They are the three modes of nature. The three modes of nature are called guna. Sattva gun, Tamagun, and Rajagun. And guna also means ropes. So one is tied up, one is controlled by these modes of nature, but transcending, let's see, this is 20. Gunan etan atitya trin dehe deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkha vimuktom ritam ashnute. Transcending these modes manifest in the body, one is liberated from the miseries of birth, death, and old age, and knows the joy of immortality. So transcending the modes, that means coming to the nirguna platform. Guna, sattva gun, rajagun, tamagun, and not being bound by the modes of material nature, coming to the nirguna plane. Nirguna means the plane of devotional service. Arjuna vacha karalingas trin gunanetan atito bhavati prabho kim achara katam chaitams trin gunan ativartate. Arjuna said, O Lord, what are the symptoms of a person transcendental to these three modes of material nature? How does he behave, and how does he transcend the modes? So both of your questions are related to this verse, yours and also Haripriya's. So Arjuna said, O Lord, what are the symptoms of a person transcendental to these three modes of material nature? How does he behave, and how does he transcend the modes? Because that's really what it's about, okay? And 22. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Prakasham cha pravritim cha moham eva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati udasina vad asino gunar yona vichayate guna vartanta iti evam yo vatishtati nengate. Samaduka Sukha Svasta Samalostrashma Kanchana Tuya Priya Priyo Dhiras Tuya Nindatma Samstuti Mana Pramanayos Tuyas Tuyo Mitrari Pakshayo Sarvaramba Parityagi Gunatita Sa Uchate. I'll read that again. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prakasham Cha Pravritim Cha Moham Eva Cha Pandava Nadvesti Sampravrittani Nanivrittani Kankshati Udasinavad Asino Gunar Yona Vichalyate Gunavartanta Iti Evam Yovatishtati Nengate Samaduka Sukha Svasta Samalostrashma Kanchana Tuya Priya Priyo Dhiras Tuya Nindatma Samstuti Manapamanayos Tuyas Tuyo Mitrari Pakshayo Sarvaramba Parityagi Gunatita Sa Uchate. The Supreme Lord replied, O Pandava, it is said that a person who has transcended the three modes of material nature neither resents illumination, activation, and delusion when they appear, nor does he hanker for them when they withdraw. Poised in the knowledge that the modes are engaging, he is not distracted by them. He remains unperturbed, unconcerned. Remaining self-satisfied, he sees joy and sorrow equally. He sees earth, rock, or gold within the vision of equality. He is wise, equipoised in desirable and undesirable circumstances, abuse and praise, honor and dishonor. He behaves fairly with friend and foe alike, and he renounces all mundane endeavors. The Supreme Lord replied, O Pandava, it is said that a person who has transcended the three modes of material nature neither resents illumination, activation, and delusion when they appear, nor does he hanker for them when they withdraw. Poised in the knowledge that the modes are engaging, he is not distracted by them. He remains unperturbed, unconcerned, remaining self-satisfied. He sees joy and sorrow equally. He sees earth, rock, or gold with the vision of equality. He is wise, equipoised in desirable and undesirable circumstances, abuse and praise, honor and dishonor. He behaves fairly with friend and foe alike, and he renounces all mundane endeavors. So just because one is following the divine path, it doesn't mean that one will never be affected by the modes of material nature. For instance, one is in this world endeavoring to engage in devotional service, but sometimes one falls ill because one is in this material body, and this material body sometimes is affected by disease. Now that disease may be a symptom of the working of the modes. It may be, for instance, maybe due to passion, that one has some disturbance. For instance, one has eaten improperly due to some passion for this taste or that taste, and as a result, one may be affected by some disturbance from those foods. And especially we see someone is not young, they cannot eat the same way they ate when they were a teenager or when they were very young. Then we see that somebody may be conquered by some serious disease, and that may be also a symptom of the working of the mode of ignorance. And why is that? Because I remember one time it is said that when lawyers, politicians, etc., are lying, the Akash becomes contaminated, and when the Akash becomes contaminated by their lies and their ignorance, then disease results, and one can become affected by that disease. So that one, just because one's in this material body, one will be affected by the modes of material nature. But here repeat what the Lord is saying. The Supreme Lord replied, O Pandit, it is said that a person who has transcended the three modes of material nature neither resents illumination, activation, and delusion when they appear, nor does he hanker for them when they withdraw. Poised in the knowledge that the modes are engaging, he is not distracted by them. He remains unperturbed, unconcerned. Remaining self-satisfied, he sees joy and sorrow equally. It's not bound by what is joy, what is sorrow, what is auspicious, what is inauspicious. Those are all material qualities. He sees earth, rock, or gold with a vision of equality. It's not hankering just for this or that or for wealth. He is wise, equipoised in desirable and undesirable circumstances. If the situation is desirable, he can behave in that situation. And if he winds up in some unfortunate circumstance, he also knows how to deal with that. He is wise, equipoised in desirable and undesirable circumstances. Abuse and praise. Sometimes one will be abused, sometimes will be praised. Honor and dishonor. He behaves fairly with friend and foe alike. And he renounces all mundane endeavors. Sometimes even with the foe, one behaves properly. That someone will say, this person must be chastised in this way. And someone may say, no, this kind of chastisement is not fair. He deserves some chastisement, but not to the severity which you're saying. There must be some provision that justice will be served. So, equipoised in desirable and undesirable circumstances, abuse and praise, honor and dishonor. He behaves fairly with friend and foe alike, and he renounces all mundane endeavors. Okay. Mamchayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. Mamchayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahmabhuyaya kalpate. A person who, without deviation, serves me with devotion, transcends the three modes of material nature, and becomes qualified to know his internal divine identity. Let's see. So a person who without deviation serves me with devotion, transcends the three modes of material nature, and becomes qualified to know his internal divine identity. So we're talking about the three divisions, or the three modes of material nature, and now we're coming to the end, and Krishna says, these three modes of material nature are acting, but a person who without deviation serves me with devotion, engages in devotion to me, that person transcends the three modes of material nature and becomes qualified to know his internal divine identity. Then Brahmano I pratishtaham amritas yav vayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukas yaikantikasya cha. Brahmano I pratishtaham amritasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya cha dharmasya sukas yaikantikasya cha. I am the basis of the absolute truth, the inexhaustible nectar, the eternal pastimes, and the ultimate ecstasy of divine love. I am the basis of Brahmchayo Vyabhicharin, Brahmanoi Pratishtaham. I am the basis of this, of Brahmana, of the spirit of the absolute truth. What is the verse that one is Brahmabhuta prashanatma nasochati nakankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktem labate param. No. or trying to attain that state of devotion. Brahmano pratistaham amritasya vyayasya cha shashvatasya chadharmasya sukasya kantikasya cha. I am the basis of the absolute truth, the inexhaustible nectar, amritasya vyayasya cha, the inexhaustible nectar, the eternal pastimes and the ultimate ecstasy of divine love. Shashvatasya chadharmasya and sukasya kantikasya cha, and the ultimate ecstasy of divine love. Okay? Iti Sri Mahabharate Shata Sahasriyam Samhitayam Vayasikyam Bhishma Parvani Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Gunatraya-vibhaga-yoga Nama Chaturdasho Jaya. End of chapter 14, the three divisions of material nature from the conversation of Sri Krishna and Arjuna, and Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishad, the Yoga Scripture of Transcendental Knowledge, and Bhishma Parva of Sri Mahabharata, the Holy Scripture revealed by Srila Vyasadeva in 100,000 verses. So the Gita is part of that Gita Upanishad from the Mahabharata. So now, here. Okay. Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Hare Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Vaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Pa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatham Mananaman. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatha Bhakta Raguna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna. Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaite Vignana Shavista Puran. Echai Gosai Jarmui Taradas. Tasavar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Abilas. Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Madhyayaman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Gauriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Goranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhadadash Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Premzigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Dham Mayapur Ki Jai, Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai, Shri Koladvip Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai, Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kana Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, all the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Okay.